Hello, hello, beautiful soul. Welcome to another live session. Today we are exploring how to find hope in dark times. I'm going to be joined by a friend, a colleague, someone I hold very dear, Nick Haines from the Five Institute. And in particular, we really want to explore darkness because as someone who has recently fallen into another one of those dark nights of the ego, I recognize that it's a sort of pattern that we go through in life through multiple different life transitions, whether it's burnout, breakups, breakdowns, or just life transitions, leaving a job, leaving a marriage, leaving school. We can sort of lose this sense of who we are. As our reality is changing, our identity is morphing, it can feel so scary. And in those times of despair, I personally felt myself like spiraling out of control with panic and anxiety the first time I really went through a dark night of the ego. So if this is your first time tuning in, I am Dr. DaeEss Andrea Pennington Wasio. I am an integrative physician and I facilitate psychedelic assisted therapy and retreats. And this exploration into darkness, into embracing transition, and really shifting our mindset and how we look at transition has really been born out of my own drama and trauma in life, but also helping my clients over the last 20 years. And in particular, when I had my first dark night of the ego, I experienced all sorts of fear and panic. And I didn't realize that there was going to be an end to it. Sometimes when we're in the darkness, in that void, we think this might actually go on forever. And that's what leads to a sense of hopelessness. At least it did in my case. So I want to get into this conversation about how do we navigate these dark times, whether it's our own life stressors or things going on in the world, politically, socially, etc. And yeah, we want to provide solutions as well and hope. So I am super grateful that my friend Nick, who I'll give you a short introduction, he is the founder of the Five Institute and creator of the Vitality Test. If you've read any of my books, then you've probably seen that I recommend everyone take the Vitality Test. It is a free questionnaire that Nick developed after his decades, almost 4 decades of working in acupuncture, founding the UK's largest and best acupuncture training program, and running a successful practice. He created the Vitality Test to help you understand which of the 5 Chinese elements are your driving factors that make you naturally brilliant, but yes, also maybe a little susceptible to stress or burnout. And if you've taken the test, then you know that you get with that a whole lot of education and support at managing yourself. And the way that Nick shares this information and education and his own experiences it's heartwarming. So I wanted to have this conversation, and I'm so grateful that he is here today. So Nick, welcome. Thank you so much for being here.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much. I've been so looking forward to this conversation and slightly dreading it in case I start crying. But we'll go with it.
Yeah.
We'll go with it. Just put it out there.
Yeah, I'm right there with you. You know, for anyone watching the replay, this is October 2023, and Nick, I'm really looking forward to you giving some perspective on energies and what 2023 and this bank of time. But for me personally, I've been kind of going through a dark night of the ego, a transition that often includes a sense of an ego death or an identity shift. And just when I thought I was getting my feet underneath me, we see this conflict, this war break out between Israel and the Hamas. And it's devastating because when we're going through our own personal crises, you can call a therapist, you can call a friend. sometimes we have self-help techniques or therapy techniques, but when it's something so big and so horrible, I often feel hopeless and helpless. Like, what can I do to support? And usually there's humanitarian efforts and you can donate money. We got together this week and meditated together for peace, for those suffering and those in fear. But it's that sense of helplessness that for me, when we're going through that dark night, in my own experience, that is what led me to give up on life. If I didn't see a way out, if I felt helpless and I felt hopeless, it was very easy for me to spiral into really dark places where I just didn't want to be alive anymore. And having lost people in the last few years who died by suicide, it's a tender time for all of us, but for me, and I know you in particular. So I'll let you share your perspective here and what brings you present to this conversation.
Yeah. So I'm going to go straight in on the conversation of suicide and just throw a nuance, a thing here that we have to kind of recognize is what's going on. So we can have, within suicide, it's multi-complex. There's loads and loads of things going on. But if you break it down into its simplest form, there is a sense that nothing is going to change. There is going to be no change. So there's a stagnation and a stuckness. And we can have times in our life where we think nothing's going to change, and then there is a spark of hope or something or we think it's not going to change, but I'm just going to carry on with the hope and the dream that it will change, and there's a possibility that it will. So the stagnation and the stuckness is one side of it, and we have a lot of that at the moment. It's a little bit like we're kind of being kind of reborn, and we're kind of coming out of a certain situation. So at the place at which something arrives, there is a stuckness in which it doesn't arrive. You're not in the old place and you're not in the new place. So there is an inherent stuckness at the moment. So we've got that going on. But that doesn't tend to lead to suicide, or the sense of what it can do is it can lead to the sense that we'll kind of opt out of life, or we'll go, oh, this is too much, or we'll get angry, or we'll get depressed, or we'll get stuck, or we'll get irritable, or we'll get frustrated, or we'll do all those sorts of things. But the particular scenario with suicide is when you have another component going on. And I'll illustrate. Can I illustrate this with a story? Because this other component is the bit that we have to watch. So is it okay if I just illustrate it with a story?
Yes, please.
Yeah. So I was in my clinic, and this patient who I'd known for years and years came up, and they were really jolly, and they brought back a book that I'd lent them about, to be honest, it was about 3 or 4 years ago. I kind of thought that I'd forgotten about it. They said, oh, I brought you back this book, and they're really jolly, and they handed me back this book and everything, and we were chatting and laughing away, and they were laughing, and they were absolutely fine. And then I took their pulse, and from acupuncture, you can take someone's pulse, and it was totally stagnant. It was stuck. There was no movement. The energy was tight and this thing, and yet they were kind of happy and jolly and thing. I thought, oh, that's a little bit odd. And then I took another pulse, which kind of says how much reserve energy you've got, how much you've got in the bank, how much you've got to pull off. And that was just empty. Nothing. So here we had someone who was happy. And everything told me they should be irritable, cross, whatever. And here was someone that had no energy in the bank, and yet they were appearing to be lively. So I thought there is something wrong here. There's a disconnect. Something's going on. And I thought, we have these little intuitive voices, and I thought, oh Christ, they're going to kill themselves. Because one of the things that my father taught, my father was a physician. He was like you, was a physician, psychiatrist, and one of my friends committed suicide, and we all thought that he must have been miserable. My dad said, actually, there's plenty of evidence that people are quite happy when they commit suicide because there is a solution, there is an answer, there is a way out. So I thought, here was some happy. So I thought, okay, well, what can I do with this patient? Do I confront them? Do I confront them straight on and say whatever? You know me, I've got a little bit of a wicked sense of humour, and sometimes humour moves stagnation stones. So I said, could I ask you a favour? She went, yeah, of course. I said, when you finish the consultation, could you pay by cash? She went, yeah, well, why do you want to pay? Why? You've never said that, but why do you want me to pay by cash? I said, okay, because I think you're going to commit suicide, and I'm going to have two problems. One is I'm going to feel really shit. And the second one is I'm going to have a check I can't cash. She went, oh. I said, and that's going to be really... I said, to be honest, I can live with a check, but living without you, that's going to be really difficult. But I thought, at least if I got the cash, I can go out and have a drink or buy a thing or do or something. She went, oh, okay. And there was a pause, and she said, yeah, I am going to. How do you know? And I said, well, because your pulse tells me that there is total stagnation, and a new sense or feel or experience in your every being of your body that nothing is going to change. Nothing is going to change. And at the same time, you have no energy, you have no reserve, so you have no capacity to continue in a situation that will never change. So, and I think this, I said, to be honest, I think it's a great solution from those two energies. That why don't I just kill myself? Because I can't carry on, because it's never going to change. I'm too exhausted and I just can't do it. So it seems logical to kill yourself. And you probably bought the book back because you felt guilty for quite some time about it. And you said, I have. I said, okay, that's cool. I forgot. And so I said, so your logical conclusion is that you will, you're going to kill yourself because you can't continue. You're exhausted. It's never going to change. So it's never going to get easier. So what is the point? She said, yeah, okay. I'm still going to do it, Nick. I said, yeah, absolutely fine. There is no way I'm going to persuade you not to. I would like you to pay back cash. And I'm going to do a suggestion for you. Why don't we just do an acupuncture treatment? And then what I'll do is I'll move a bit of energy. We'll just get things moving, and we'll put a little bit in the reserve. And then you go away and do whatever. You go away and do whatever you want. But I'm just going to do that, and then you did make a different choice. So we did the treatment. And when I say move energy, I did it by acupuncture. But you can move energy, as you know, by walking, by moving, by talking, by getting something finished. There's lots of different ways we can move our energy. We can have a massage, we can cry, we can do. So lots of ways. I did it with acupuncture, and then I put some energy in, and again there are lots of different ways that we can put energy in, but it's that dynamic. So I do the treatment, say nothing, and then she walks out. I wait and I see the front door close until the front door close, hear the close, and I go out to reception, and I walk out there and say, oh, did they pay cash or check? And at the receptionist said, they paid by check and said, tell Nick I'm paying by check. And then I think, oh shit, I've got a bum check, or I have a possibility. So what was a blessing was she decided not to do it. Came back to see me about a week later and said it was very interesting. It changed it, something. Yeah. And then she was really, really pissed off.
Yeah.
Really pissed off. And you know what she was pissed off about? She said, I was so pissed off. I had to go back to the charity shop and buy my clothes back.
Oh, wow. Yeah. Wow. I mean, Nick, that story is so powerful because, I mean, I've been in that place.
Yeah.
And when you're thinking like I've got a solution finally, and then someone thwarts it. But oh my God, what courage you had! What
Yes,
bravery!
it's difficult. I mean, you know, in medicine, you're always on the edge of something, and there is a possibility, and that's where that, you know, you do that self-love movement, that self-love. You have to kind of be okay with yourself, and you have to be okay with your decisions, and you have to be okay that you get it wrong. And then there are situations like this where it could have not worked out, and it was fortunate that it did. But I think the kind of key thing is just understanding that you have to have two components there. You have to go, it will never change, and I have nothing in the tank to continue. You remove one of those, and then that urge then goes, and none of it is logic, none of it is a felt sense that we have. And I think one of the real challenges we have at the moment is that there is vast amounts of stagnation and stuckness, because we cannot see that there is a way out of the way that humanity is currently behaving.
Yeah.
That's the issue, isn't it?
Yeah.
And we're shifting from one identity to another. So we have lost everything. We've lost everything that we had, and we haven't got anything that we're going to have, and we have no sense as to what it would look like. And I think that kind of leads to, and this is just in the outside world, and then we've got the same thing going on ourselves. So I think we are in a very, very difficult phase of unknowingness.
Yeah.
And one of the things that, you know, I talked about in the October energy waves. So each month I do on YouTube, I put a video that explains about the energy waves for this month, what's going on, these are your steps, this is what you need to do, etc. So running up to October, one of the things I was saying was just rest, just keep resting, because you're really going to need to be having some energy. You know, the irony here, I was really, really busy helping people and turning to and doing all this stuff. I forgot to do it myself.
Yeah.
Yeah, we get that. So what we then have this month, and this is kind of sums up with what we've been having this whole year, is we have massive amounts of disorientation going on. People are just disorientated. I don't know, it was this and now it's this, and then we have this war going on. I wasn't expecting this. A hopelessness about like I say, the behavior of some human beings, and the structures that are there and supporting them. And it's just total disorientation and confusion. And for some people and some energies, not to know is very, very difficult.
Yeah.
Very, very difficult.
I'd like to take a little step back, because one of the components that you brought up was thinking it's never going to end. And that's what I notice in the dark night of the ego. When you're in it, your ego is like, nothing makes sense anymore, everything's falling away, and we think this is probably going to go on forever, which can be a piece of that hopelessness. And the reason I'm doing this whole series on the dark night of the ego and the dawn of the soul is to let people know that the dawn is coming. It will not last forever. And I think one of the key elements that you bring with your wisdom is understanding the energies. Like, you've been talking about it broadly, but if you can give us an encapsulated idea of what you mean by these pockets of time, and why some of this could have been predicted, or the way that you predicted every month with the energy waves. So if you could give us a snapshot of what Chinese philosophy and astrology tells us about periods of time, and yeah, let's just start there.
Okay. So the Chinese kind of philosophy is kind of based on, or the one that I use, and I know you understand, you use as well. So it's looking at this yin and yang, and then the five elements, the five energies, and everything is moving in constant cycles. So we're seeing the seasons, we're seeing the night into day, we're seeing constant revolving of cycles, and it kind of follows these energy energy patterns. They go in shapes. So we have, say, within Chinese astrology, you've got 60-year cycles, of which you have each year is related to one animal, which gives it certain characteristics, and one element, one energy, which gives it certain characteristics, and then it repeats every 60 years. Then within that, you then also have other big things that happen. So, for example, at the moment, we've got geopolitics, consumerism, and spirituality are all trying to shift into a different energy. So our geopolitics is trying to move from fire energy, which is all about love me, vote for me, I'll do this, very short term, into an earth energy, which is about community, belonging, holding, and listening and understanding. So we're in a transition in geopolitics. We're also in a transition in consumerism, and we are in a massive evolutionary shift in spirituality. So these bigger cycles, they don't change for hundreds of years, and we certainly haven't had a situation for probably 2,000 plus years where we've had geopolitics, consumerism, and spirituality all trying to shift into a different energy at the same time. So we have no point of reference as to how do we handle that. So we've got these big cycles changing over 20, 30 years, and everything is in a state of interruption. So we've got that going on as a background, and then we have got the energy of the year, and then we've got the energy of the month. So if we just go back to 2020, okay, that was a beginning of a new cycle, and that was a metal rat year. Metal energy is related to autumn, related to fall, and that's about disconnection. It's about things ending. It's also about minimalism and simplicity, and it's also about saying this is what I value and this is what I don't value. As we know, metal energy is to do with the lungs and the large intestine. So in 2020, we were given a metal energy experience. It was also a block of time dominated by metal energy. So 2 metal energy years out of 12, 4 metal energy years out of 12. So in 2020, we suddenly go, whoa, this is all suddenly changed. We are having a metal energy experience. We have disconnection. We have isolation. We have grief. We have loss. We have disconnection. We have a letting go. We have a this and a that. And it was terrifying for many people. And also us working out that, this is really important for me and this is not important for me. And each energy within our vitality test profile, each energy we have will give us something that we consider to be important. So if you have a lot of wood energy, which is related to spring, their big question is, am I free? Are we free? So you saw all these people at that time were going, the important thing in my life is being taken away from me. I am no longer free. Other energies were experiencing something else, but as a collective, we were experiencing isolation, cutting off, change, letting go, and lungs, large intestine, etc., etc. We then move into 2021, and we have another metal energy year. So that bombardment continues. We then flip into 2022, and we then move into a water year. And water tiger year, which the tiger was great because that made us feel a bit braver and a bit stronger and a bit, this is good, I can handle this, I've got this tiger energy. Water is a little bit more, I can perhaps flow a little bit more, I can perhaps do with it. Water energy is also related to winter, so there's a bit more hibernation coming away. However, what water energy is about consequences. And so we got slapped with the first set of consequences. Now, consequences could be that, during that kind of lockdown and during that time of isolation, I worked out really what I love, and this is what I'm going to do, and now I have the consequences. This is glorious. I love this. I'm now going to do this. I have let go of that old identity, and I've let go of that thing. And these are now the consequences of it. Or it could be that you ate a lot in lockdown and you think, I'm a little bit bigger than I was at the lockdown. Or it could be you didn't take exercise, or it could be whatever you had. But not just consequences of 2020 and 2021, but consequences for decades start to catch up with you. Of all the things that we start to see. So in the planet, we start to see the consequences of us basically abusing Mother Nature, abusing the planet. We see, okay, here are the consequences. And we go, oh my goodness. And then we see other consequences. We see the consequences of failing to deal with Russia. We see the consequences of it as those water energy. So we just see consequences all the time. And that is like brutal.
Yeah.
And it's brutal having had 2 years of metal energy years where a metal energy creates a vulnerability, like the lungs. I think metal, we feel really exposed. It's like you have no protection and you are vulnerable. You're being broken to be rearranged, and then you're slapped with consequences. You're slapped in your inner world and the outer world. We have our consequences. But you have to say, okay, well, what is this for? Is it just to give us a bad time? Well, no, it's not. It's for us to say, this matters to me, and this is really important, and I would like more of this. And this is something I think that we as a society need to let go of, or we need to do it in a different way. So the last time we were in this phase was the 1960s. So they'd come out of 2 world wars. And what did they say at the beginning of the 1960s? They let go of some of the trauma from 2 world wars. Was that difficult? Yeah, because lots of people said, what on earth are we forgetting about the wars for? What are we going to forget about the dead for? These people died for you, and then you're going out, we young people, you're going out smoking a sweet Mary Jane and on your scooter looking all modern. This is wrong. So there was a juxtaposition between old systems and powers and new ways of being. But what fundamentally a lot of society said was, we want peace, we want love. We want that experience. We want to do things. We also saw at the beginning of the 1960s a real questioning around equality. We're seeing a real questioning around human rights. We're seeing real questionings around civil rights. We're seeing real, and lo and behold, we had the same thing. We had all the kind of Black Lives Matter. We had all the I can't breathe. You know, ironic. And we were just shown, is this what we consider to be civil rights? Is this what we consider to be equality? Because you might want to think again. And us as sensitive human beings in this mix, we're going, whoa, this is all a bit too much.
Yeah.
And many of us were given experiences way before this happened in order to learn how to meditate. You were going out there in the world saying, this is about loving ourselves, this is about finding grounding, this is about how to meditate, this is how to keep cool. There were so many teachers that were trying to help us. Yeah. And we a lot of us did pretty well with it. However good you are, we're still metal, energy, water, changing geopolitics, changing consumerism, changing, and then we're having a blooming spiritual evolution at the same time.
Right.
And it's just kind of, this is all a bit much. However, so we then move into 2023, which is another water energy year, but we've got the rabbit. And then what rabbits do, one of the things that they do is, for the first time in a long time, we have a year, an energy, an animal that is about community. It is about, they do well when they're in community. When they're out in the open, which can be a bit scary, one rabbit will say something and then all hide away. We look after each other. There's a community. There's a coming together. The big thing in 2023 was, can we stay above ground? Can we be out in the open? Because it's scary. We've not got the brave tiger anymore. We've got some rabbit, which is community. But can we stay above ground? Yeah. And the temptation is, oh, I think I'd like to hide. This is all a bit much. So I know lots of people are thinking, no, but I need to be out there. People say, no, I want to hide. So there's a duality that's kind of going on. And this is what we're existing in. But it's all, this is you making us making collective choices. Do we want to have war or do we want to have peace? Do we want to have a situation where we go tribal and we go black and white? And that's the other thing that metal energy does. It's about simplicity. So everyone went very black and white. This is complicated. I'm disorientated. Let me be very black and white. Old systems are collapsing. People are desperate to hold on to them. But it's ultimately us getting to decide what it is that we want and how we want the world to be. And in order to do that, we have been shown contrast. And in order for us to step into our heroic actions and our power and our sense of self, we have to be rearranged. We have to be changed in some way. I think you saw a video where I was a little bit tearful in that one as well. It's obviously a bit of a theme here. And I was talking about that I felt broken by what I'd experienced, the people I'd lost, the trauma, and I felt broken. But I wasn't broken, I was being rearranged. And it is the rearranging that then leads to our greatest experience and our greatest action. So we are currently being rearranged, but it feels like we're being broken. Yeah. And sticking together and being together and talking and sharing and holding and whatever it is we do, that thing is a way forward. And knowing that this is ending. This is what we have been through. This is not what we will be going through. This is what we are moving into. So in 1963, around this same time, we had Dr. Martin Luther King. He said, "I have a dream," and painted a picture of a dream as to what we want. And lots of people are coming out with, "I've got a dream here. I can see this being different." Whether or not we can hear it, but there are lots of dreams being put out in the world, and people say, "This could be better. I've got a dream. This is how it could be." And you might be having, people listen to this, you might be having dreams and say, "Oh, I could do this, I could do this." So we're coming into a time of dreaming into a new future and different hope. But one thing I said at the beginning of 2023 is that rabbit years, we will have a plot twist. We'll have plot twists. And plot twists are there to shift identities, they're there to shift behavior. So I didn't think that we'd have this going on in the Middle East as a plot twist. The brutality of that, to have human nature, but my God, it's a plot twist. The plot twist at the end of 2023 in 1963, the plot twist at the end of 1963 was JFK being assassinated. No one saw that coming. No one thought that would do it. Massive readjustment. But it did mean people had to step into a different power and make different decisions. And a lot of people are questioning now, do we really want a military complex or an arms industry that is able to provide people with weapons that can kill other people on an industrial scale on both? Is it okay? Because what's upstream of this? What is being created by this? Well, we have an arms industry that is multinational. We have governments that go out and sell arms to other people, and they get in the hands of people that do very bad things. Yeah. Very bad things.
Yeah. This was certainly the plot twist I hadn't anticipated. No. And as you said, we've been hit with so much in these last few years, from COVID and then the Russian-Ukraine conflict and war. And it's just felt, this is what someone was telling me, that in their dark night, like sometimes we fall into a dark night, maybe you lost your job or you lost a loved one, and it feels very personal. And you're like, okay, maybe you're going to figure out how you're going to get through it, or you're just in complete hibernation, you're stuck in bed. But there's also this phenomenon that happens in some people. Maybe it's karma, I don't know. But it's like another bad thing, and then another bad thing, and then another bad thing. It's like, I can't catch a break. And I think that is what has felt so destabilizing by what happened last week. It's like, we're going through all of these collective changes. I've been going through my own dark night, being broken and rearranged, and then just the senselessness of it. And also feeling, and once again, it comes back to the helplessness. And so we've talked about hopelessness, like this seems like it's going to go on forever, so I'm losing hope in a future. And what you're helping to put us into perspective for us is these are cycles, and they do come to an end. And I'd also like to move into the helplessness. So you talked about reserves. I do a lot on building up resilience. We can do that physically, as you talked about, but I also feel like this energy that you and I have shared in the last couple of years about heroic action. I hosted the Hero Collective, and really wanted to remind us all that we have capacity for resilience. Each and every one of us, no matter the trauma, the drama, the breakdowns, there's still this innate vitality code that leads to resilience. Yeah. And if we can choose a mindset that says, I'm going to orient towards something meaningful, even if that's just basic survival. As you described with Martin Luther King, he had this dream, and that was this something to live for, something to live into. And so I'd love to talk more about your concept around heroic actions. And I want to remind everyone, go to 5institute.com so you can take the vitality test, find out what your dominant influences are out of these 5 energies, because each of the energies gives us this possibility to tune into our superpowers. So talk to me a little bit about that, and then of course we'll talk about the upcoming quest, and then we'll take some questions from the audience.
So I think there's a and I have a slightly counter view on this, and I'm quite prepared to be wrong, but I think I'm probably right here. But we can all be wrong. So in that kind of dark night, so we're going, as you say, many of us are going through an identity shift in which an old part of us is going and a new part of us is arriving, and there is this dark night of the ego where we have to let go of an identity or a possibility in order to have something. And I think that's, as you say, that's what we're currently going through, and we kind of touched on that. And then there is within that this idea of being heroic, okay? And being heroic could, when we're on the quest, we look at lots of versions of being heroic, but there is all the same underlying pattern that we look at. And we call it this mountain of confusion, assumptions, and emotions. And one of the things in that mountain of confusion, assumptions, and emotions is that to be heroic, you somehow have to suffer or go through the dark night of the soul or the dark night of the ego. That is what involves being heroic, to go into that dark place, to go and struggle and come and then survive. I mean, the hero's journey, the classic hero's journey. Okay. And what we say within heroic actions and energy superpowers, and it was people, everyone's experience of that, because this is what happened. People were phenomenally heroic, but no one suffered. There was no dark night of the soul. There was no terrible situation. There was no thing. Because what we were looking at was, for you to have a horrific time being heroic, it means you're in the wrong structure. It means you're in the wrong situation, and you're playing the game of your energies. Okay? So I'll use an example. So earth energy is about giving, support, understanding, etc., etc. So you go out and you're being heroic with your earth energy. Okay? You will have a horrific time if you fall into the trap that earth energy is trying to learn, which is, I'm meant to ask for help. I'm meant to receive support and give support. I'm meant to be able to try and understand everything, but also understand that I can't understand everything, and the adventure is exploring, and etc., etc. So if you go into your heroic actions in an imbalanced way, you have a horrible time. You're doing it all by yourself. You're suffering, you're giving, you're doing too much. You know what I mean? Whereas if you go into your heroic actions, understanding that the heroic action requires a structure for you to be able to be heroic, then you don't suffer. And I use the example in the October energy waves. You can climb a mountain and be heroic and climb a mountain, but it's pretty stupid if it's a mountain that's way outside your capacity. So you're a novice climber and you try and climb Everest. That's heroic. No, it's not. It's stupid. Or you try and do it on your own, or you try and do it in a pair of sneakers. Nothing is going to work out. And so you say, well, the act of I'm being heroic, I'm climbing a mountain. Yeah, but it's the wrong mountain, and you're in a pair of sneakers, and you've got no mates around you. So you're going to have a horrible time, and you are going to suffer. So I think one of the things we look at, and some say, well, yeah, but what about the hero's journey? Joseph Campbell, all these stories, the whole hero's journey involves this scenario, this situation, where we suffer, we go to the dark night of the souls, we suffer, we elope, we come up, and all this sort of stuff. And I'm a little bit tongue-in-cheek and say they are stories for the camps, around the campfire, for the fire, around the fire. Because if I said, Eric went on a heroic journey and it was great, had a fantastic time. He loved it, just great. Everyone around the campfire is going to go, that's a bit of a boring story. Have you got another one? Oh, well, Erica, she went on a journey, and as she set out on that journey, she was lost. And she was completely and utterly lost. And in that moment of complete loss, she saw a light which she followed, and there was her mission. But she couldn't complete that mission because she was, I'm not making it very interesting, but you know these stories, and everyone goes, oh, that's fantastic, I love that story. And then what happened with Erica? Did she win? Did she lose? Did she survive? Well, she nearly died. And then, just when she was about to take her last breath, she remembered she had been given a gift from the heavens, and she took that gift, and with that gift, she rose up and defeated everything she'd always wanted, and she then, from that place on, became the light. Oh, I love that story, that's fantastic. So they became the stories that we told, and therefore they become our view of what it is to be heroic. So we have a block, we say, oh, I'm not sure about being heroic because I'm tired and I'm not sure I want to suffer, and it's going to get really hard work. But you're just in the wrong structure. You're in the wrong system, and you're in the wrong. You're just playing into the wrong structure. So we break down very clearly as to what you do. So I think the very nature that we're all being asked to be heroic at this moment in time, and the heroicness could be just saying, I'm going to say what it is that I want in the world, that I want peace and I want love. And to be heroic, I risk other people saying, "Ooh, you're just a hopeless romantic. You're just a dreamer. It's never going to happen." You risk that, okay? But what it is that you are doing when you're saying, "This is how I want the world to be, and I want peace, and I want love, and I want kindness, and I want," the stuff that we talk about, we are being risked being ridiculed. Mm-hmm. But that is not being killed. That is not being murdered. That is not being, and it is an opportunity for you to say, okay, if I'm going to risk being ridiculed, what do I need to do first? Well, a bit of self-love is going to be good. That will be my shield. A lot of other people around me to cheer me on. That would be good. That will really help with it. What else do I need to say? Well, this is what I want. Well, I need to be clear about what it is that I want. Okay. How do we do that? Okay. And then, so being heroic could just be saying, I want peace and love in the world, and be prepared of your family to say, oof, you and your big dreams. You know what I mean? So there's layers to it. Or it could be, I had, in my practice, I did a lot of end-of-life care. And I'm a very sensitive soul, but what I had to do was to not be sensitive, to find a way to be inner strong and calm, and to be able to be with people at the time when they had heard or were dying. Mm-hmm. And I had to be in that place and hold that space and listen and be there and be fully and utterly present when every part of me wanted to go. Mm-hmm. Okay. So you said, well, that could sound an awful bit like suffering, Nick, to be in that thing. So that's you being heroic is you suffering. Well, it could be, but then what I did was I stepped into my superpowers, and one of my superpowers is to make difficult things quite fun. I've not been that funny this time, but I could be quite funny sometimes. With my patient pay by check. Yeah. Don't pay. You can. There are ways that you can use humor and teasing and playing and stuff. And I'm also so I have this most fire energy that likes to make things fun, earth energy which likes to hold and have communities, and wood energy just to be a bit disruptive and stir it up a little bit. So when I was being heroic with these people that had just been, some of them were quite young, had been told that they were dying, and other people were middle aged, and other people were older, but they had been told that they were dying, and there was nothing you could do, nothing that could be done. And I wrote a big chapter in a book called "Treating the Untreatable." How do we deal with treating something that is untreatable in a situation? So what I did was I stepped into my superpowers and created a scenario and situation of dreams, of getting them to have an experience that was different than they were expecting, etc. And to sum it up, one of the things that I think I'm most proud of in my practice, someone saying to me that I never knew that dying could be so much fun. and he said, we have just kind of laughed. We have laughed and laughed and laughed at things that we shouldn't laugh about. So, I was not suffering in my heroic actions. I was being me.
Yeah.
And I had structure around me. I had receptionists, I had accountants, I had a room, I had a clinic, I had people doing my. All I had to be was present with this person, and I had to step into my superpowers, and it was a glorious experience. A glorious experience. So it's understanding that nature of construction, structure, your energies, how you want to play with them, and not having things like this mountain of confusion that we have to suffer to be heroic. We don't. And there's other things that are in those mountains of confusion we all have.
Thank you so much. That the stories you tell and the way that you frame it do give us a new perspective of how to look at these dark times, rather than thinking it's going to last forever, or thinking that we're being broken or we're being punished. It can be a transition, and if we choose to step into the heroic aspects or the superpowers that we have inherently and lean on those, it can give a new directionality to the suffering. One of the things that I found in going through the dark night of the ego, recognizing that it was my ego that was struggling, not the soul.
No.
I realized that I had a choice.
Yeah.
And of course, we talk about this a lot in psychology and Viktor Frankl's work and his book, The Man's Search for Meaning, and logotherapy. The whole concept is people who have this will to purpose or will to meaning. It gives a sense of directionality. And what you're describing is having a structure, whether it's taking this heroic actions and quest, your 5-week quest. I teach it, as you know, with the Cornerstone process, which is a 5-step holistic framework. And it's like, for me, I think the idea that there are steps we can take, even if it seems like it's completely dark, it's completely horrible. These are the things that give us something to hold on to, because, again, it's the ego that's struggling. The soul is like ready to shine, whatever is happening, including entering into death. So I just love that we can give people a sense of structure that doesn't have to be destructive, because otherwise, we know what happens when people are struggling or suffering or in despair. They can lean on food, drugs, alcohol, sex, shopping, and of course, the unthinkable that we've already talked about. So I want to answer questions. I've seen that.
Can I very, very quickly just put in something here, because I think this is really, really important for people. Okay, and it is that thing around making choices. Okay, that we have a possibility to make choices as to how we see things and how we look at things. But there are 2 requirements for us to do that. The first one is we have to detach to get a bigger perspective. So in order to see the bigger picture, we have to try and go out and above to do it. When we're in it, it's impossible to make choices because we can't actually see. It was the reason the generals were on top of hills, is because they needed to see the perspective as to what was going on in order to make decisions. Okay, so we need to go high, go out and go high. But also in order to make that choice and fulfill it, we have to have energy. If we're tired, it's impossible to see or make choices. Think about kids at the end of the day. They're tired, they're overwhelmed, this is all too much, they can't see anything. So we have to find ways to protect our energy, our reserves. We have to put in boundaries to stop people taking our energy. We have to eat well, we have to breathe well as best we can. So trying to do the things that we're suggesting on empty is really, really difficult. Really, really difficult. I'm tired at the moment because I've been doing a lot and family stuff or whatever. So I'm having difficulty controlling my emotions. And I'm quite good at that, and I'm struggling. And why is that? Because I'm tired. And why am I tired? Because I'm trying to do too much for other people. And why am I trying to do too much for other people? Because I need to get my act together with earth energy. And why can't I do that? Because I'm tired, etc. So if all that we get out of it is just rest, find some way to rest and deal with the stuff, and then you can make the choices. Because if you can't, you're just going to feel guilty because you haven't been able to make them. Sorry about that. I just want to put that one in there as a thing.
No, I think that's a good one, because for many of us who are in the helping professions, or we're givers, or we're codependent, we do get to this point where we're completely depleted. And if that triggers an inner critic, take a rest, practice compassion. No, you should, or whatever. I mean, I've been there, done that. All right, so we're coming up on time. So I want to bring to the broadcast one of the questions that came in from Lynn Allen. Lynn says, I appreciate the info about how the world is changing, but my dark night is very personal to me, not world-scale events. Please talk about how I can cope. How can I believe it won't last forever?
Okay. So Lynn, it is everyone's experience is personal to them. There is, however, a resonance with what's going on, and we cannot isolate ourselves from the world. So for you personally to deal with it, you might have to shut out the world. Yeah. Okay? Number one, big stuff going on in the world, and you think, I can't deal with that and I can't deal with this. First of all, put a boundary in place. I'm not involving, not myself. Number one. Okay? Second one is get some rest. Try and get some rest. Because that will really help. How do you know it will end? Because everything ends. Everything starts and everything ends. Everything moves. You can't say, well, how will I know winter will end? Because spring happens. How will I know this situation will end? How will I know, even if someone is in the state of passing and they're dying, that will end and something new will arrive, and what that will be, what it will be, whether we become memories or whatever. So it will end, because things do end. But so number one is shut the outside world out, because it is going on. Block to it. The second one is just watch your reserves of energy, and when you reserves of energy, it could be that's the consequence that you need to deal with and you need to learn. The second one that's going on is it's sometimes difficult to turn to people that know us very well when we are doing an identity shift, because no one likes us to change identities. So it might be finding people who don't know you, who accept your new identity and help you explore it, but trying to do that with people that know your old identity as a new one is forming. You can also look and say, okay, well, I have been given these horrific experiences and this is absolutely terrible. And it's then looking at what is the flip side of it that you need to say, okay, this is what I really, really don't want. Okay, you've got that. So what is it that you do? Well, I don't know. Okay, well, how could you help explore that? Whatever you just got that you don't that you don't know. The other thing is you can say, okay, and we use it in heroic actions in all my work that we do. We use conscious questions, and you can ask a question that your unconscious mind and your higher soul and thing will have to answer. And a great question in these scenarios is asking, what aspect of my past will help me get through this current situation? What can I draw off thing? Or you might do a conscious question like, why is it okay not to know everything at this stage? Okay. Again, it's an assumptive question. Why is it okay not to know everything at this stage? It's an assumption you will know something, but it's okay not to know everything at this stage. And each energy has a requirement. So you might run with that question, or conscious question like, why is the past the past? Why is now? To move you out of your past and into the now. And what aspect of my past can I use to help me in this situation?
You know, one of the conscious questions that I love is, it always starts with, why is it entirely possible?
Oh, yeah. The entirely possible.
So Lynn could say, why is it entirely possible that this dark night will end? And I love that the conscious questions are left open-ended. You're not racking your brain trying to figure it out. It's your subconscious, your soul, your higher self that's going to deliver it. And so I like that one, because I always forget. I mean, I come back to you, Nick, every time, and I'm like, oh, wow, the conscious questions. Why doesn't that come to me immediately? But I like that. For me, when I'm in a sense of despair and I'm like racking my brain, it's like, wait, why is it entirely possible that this could totally work out, or that something new and unexpected could come and help me, because I'm thinking like everything is dependent on me. That's one of my things. So Lynn, why is it entirely possible that this dark night is going to get lighter, that you can believe? Yeah. And I would invite you, as Nick has said, being in community is really helpful when we're going through a dark night, whether you're in that phase of dissolution, like the caterpillar going into the chrysalis, or you're on the way out and you're realizing the old community, the old people, the old identity doesn't serve me. I'm not yet where I'm going to be. Like whatever phase of the dark night you're in, being in a community where you can speak and not be judged and be supported. So Nick is running this Heroic Actions and Energetic Superpowers quest that is community style. There's all sorts of, it's gamified. I have to give a plug for the Real Self-Love movement. It's totally free. You can join me on the second Tuesday of every month, where I lead a guided meditation and community. There's all sorts of resources. So Nick, as we're wrapping up, why don't you explain to us how this works? How does this 5-week quest work? And can we do it when we're in the midst of a dark night?
Yeah, it's 100% for that. 100% for that. So basically spread over 5 weeks. And what we do is I deliver some content live, and it takes about an hour and a half and we have patterns and questions and drop it. It's very, very interactive. If you can't, and I do that twice. So you can either in the morning or the evening. So there's 2 options to join. And if you can't join, it's recorded for you. So there's ways to do that. Then what I do is I constantly, throughout the 5 weeks, we just run drop-ins. And drop-ins are just 30 minutes, and they're spread throughout the week, and they're all the time. And sometimes one person comes along. And it's always the same. Oh, hi, so-and-so, thanks very much for dropping by. And someone might just stay for 5 minutes, have a question and move on, or we might have something we're doing. So it's a very personal experience that's done in a collective. And then there are kind of different resources, and we doing like a masterclass on conscious questions about using the entirely possible and how do you stack them with other questions. And then we have people, it's fun. It's a really fun way to do it. And the content is there, delivered in bite-sized chunks live and then recorded. And then there are just all these drop-ins that people literally can just kind of come along to. And then if someone say people are struggling with a certain thing, then I'll say, okay, let's do a special session on identity shifting. How do we do that? How do we do identity shifting? Or something else comes up. So it's a flowing process within a structure that is getting you to the places. And like you say, it's fun. We do a gamification, we do points and rewards and things pop up. And if that's not your thing, it's fine. Then ignore the unicorn that runs across this thing. But it could. Actually, there's lots of things that we do. And you know what's really fun is that the people that were on it last, one of them is coming across from America, someone else is coming across from Switzerland, and they're traveling up and down the country visiting other people that were on the quest together.
Oh, new community. I love
Yeah,
that. New
they've got
yeah.
that. Yeah, so they're doing. We've got fun things like that happening. That is outside my creation. People are just kind of creating these
I love
adventures.
that.
Mm.
So definitely visit 5institute.com so you can take the vitality test. That's number one. It's totally free. Find out what your energy imprint is. You get a PDF that Nick has created that explains your dominant energies, how they play together, with great references to other historical figures so that it really becomes clear what water energy looks like and interacts with. And then also at 5institute.com, you can learn how you can join this 5-week quest for heroic actions and your energetic superpowers. I find it really, really helpful, the different ways that you present this content. And so I'm super, super grateful to you for being here, for allowing us to have this conversation. I know that we've gotten some hearts and some love. And thank you, Marcella. Great discussion. Thank you so much. I'm glad that those who have tuned in and those who are watching on the replay, I pray that you've gotten something out of this, because these are times when we need to come together. And it's like you say, if we can collapse down these mountains of confusion and despair into just hills and find new ways to navigate, it can bring hope. And that is absolutely what I'm into.
Yeah.
Thank you, Nick.
No, thank you. And I want to give a real plug to your Tuesdays of the Real Self-Love Movement, because it's a very special place, and I often I turn up there and it's a place where you can just do real self-love.
Yeah.
It's a very special, and you hold that space brilliantly.
Thank you.
Brilliantly.
Thank you. Yeah, it's my gift to the world. So yeah, if you want to join the Real Self-Love Movement, go to onedrea.com. And wonderful Guido, thank you so much for holding that wonderful space in these times. Good to connect. I know you did a video session with Guido as well recently, didn't you?
I did, yeah. And Guido would be a great person to have these conversations with, wouldn't he?
There you go. There's your invitation. That would be awesome. All right. Well, my friends, there you have it. I pray that in these dark times you are able to connect with the heart, sending out love and blessings to others that are suffering. Know that you're not suffering alone, and know that people like us hold you in our prayers and in our visualization of relief and peace in the world. So don't lose hope, don't lose heart. Tune into some of these resources and we'll be here with you. Yeah? All right. Thank you so much. I'll see you in the Energetic Superpowers quest.
Yeah.
Love it. Bye, everyone.
Bye, everyone.
Many blessings.
Thank you. Bye.